Game of Thrones Season 8 is finally upon us, and while we can all rejoice, I still seem to have somewhat of a bitter taste in my mouth after the last couple of seasons.
Masters! Get down!
Now, I've been a huge fan of Thrones for a while, but I've been known to express my distaste for the last couple of seasons. While it's not strictly speaking D&D's fault, they have still made some questionable decisions before they ran out of books. And some decisions that are just flat out fucking stupid.
Go on, do your duty.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Everything in this show continues to get better, except the writing. Season 7 has been the culmination of a lot of stupid decisions, and you can tell they're rushing to get this thing done. I think Season 7 could have easily been 10 episodes, and the more I think about it, a lot of the issues would have been solved by just adding another 3 episodes to slow down the pacing. So I want to go over some changes that I think would have at the very least tidied up the season to make it flow a lot better, and get rid of the dumb plot armor that almost everyone seems to have this season. This season being Season 7, not Season 8. While Season 8 is already upon us, which kind of makes the idea of this video completely irrelevant, I've already written the script, so I may as well just pump this thing out anyway. Now, there are some ideas and criticisms I share with some other videos that have done similar things to this, so I'll link them and encourage you to go and watch those as well. I'm not going to be able to fix everything, but anything else is better than what we got. Oh, and obviously this is a spoiler warning.
Shall we begin?
Now, Season 7 I think would have done well to include Edmure, Tully and Robb and Arryn, even if it's just a few offhanded conversations about them. Hey, I'm here too! Robin is the lord of one of the 7 kingdoms, yet we only deal with Petyr and Jon. Now, I get that Robin isn't the most interesting character, he's kind of annoying, and he really doesn't run the Vale at all, but come on. I think it's fine to omit Robin from the season, but I think we need some conversations between perhaps Petyr and Sansa, or Petyr and Jon, to establish what the Vale is doing to prepare for winter.
The defender of the Vale!
Uncle Peter!
My main deal, though, is with Edmure. Now, I was happy to see the Tullys back in Season 6, but they were really only there to pad the runtime, and this whole arc should really have happened Season 5, not Season 6. So, what I propose is that Edmure gets an episode, maybe 2, of screen time in order to establish where he is and what the future of House Tully might be. Now, the possible scenarios will change, depending on whether Edmure has been jailed at the Twins, or has been taken to Castle Rock. Now, if it's the former, Arya should free him from his cell, and the two can reflect on the Red Wedding, with Arya perhaps admitting that she just murdered all the Freys. From here, Edmure could go after his wife and child, and hint at possibly trying to take back his home and his house. Arya could then spend an episode or so helping him do this, or he could do it off screen. Now, with an extra 3 episodes, I'm sure we'd have room for a couple of scenes of this to happen. The next idea was for him to be held prisoner at Castle Rock, and the Unsullied find him after they take the castle. While there's the argument that Jaime should have taken him when they left the High Garden, at this point the show has so many plot contrivances that I'm sure no one's really going to care too much. Now, after Dany hears word of this, perhaps she could use him to gain more favour with Jon by offering to give him back his family in Riverrun. And then, instead of having the Unsullied do nothing for half a season, they could, actually do something and off-screen be helping Edmure restore House Tully. The next big change revolves around episode 4. The follow-up to the massive cliffhanger at the end of the Loot Train attack was extremely disappointing. This season has really nailed down having all these fake-out deaths, which has seriously frustrated me, and others I'm sure. Awesomepedia, a channel that has made a similar video, stated that the fake-out deaths really dismantled the idea the show is built up of no one being safe, and there really isn't much to argue against this. Now, I always thought Jaime should have been taken captive after the battle, regardless if anyone actually died or not. The battle itself, while amazing to watch, doesn't actually advance the plot all that much. Sure, the Tullys die, but did anyone really care about them?
So, Jaime.
Break on.
Dick on.
Now the battle can stay mostly the same, except I want to make two big changes. Bran dies saving Jaime, and Jaime is fished out of the water and taken back to Dragonstone. Now for all those Bran fans, he doesn't actually have to explicitly be shown to be dead after tackling Jaime into the water. We can just never see him again and imply that he is. That way, we can have our cake and eat it too, leaving the fans to write fan theories about how Bran actually survived and got his castle after all. His death will up the stakes, and not only will affect Jaime, but Tyrion too, as this is what his decision to join Dany has ultimately led to. The deaths of the people he cares about on the other side. This is a far better motivator to set up a truce with Cersei, and Jaime is a far better bargaining chip. Now having Jaime be captured means there was actually a consequence for charging at Dany. I think having him captive would offer some incredible scenes of dialogue as well. Jaime and Jon will be an interesting reunion. Jaime and Tyrion can have a similar conversation to the one they have in episode 5, and oh boy will it be cool to see Dany talk to the man who killed her father. With the additional 3 episodes, we can still end up where we were in the show proper, just taking more time and splitting up what was one of the most fast-paced episodes of TV I've ever seen in my life. I'm looking at you, Eastwatch. Alright, so enough about that. I should probably address the thing that everyone has really come here for.
Where is Seven Hells? Come here.
It is a crime to leave Ghost out of the show for as long as he has been. I can forgive them for leaving him out of the second half of season 6, but he should have been present at least once while Jon was at Winterfell. But I think it was a huge missed opportunity to not bring him to Dragonstone. They could have drawn some interesting parallels with Dany perhaps having Jon lock Ghost up, which would mirror how Grey Worm was locked up before all the Starks were slaughtered at the Red Wedding. I think we also could have a cool scene with Dany interacting with Ghost, similar to the scene of Jon touching Drogon. It's just the small things, but I think it would have done well to explore both Jon and Daenerys' characters.
We'll fight with the men we have.
Now there were better ways to handle setting up the Dragon Pit meeting, but let's just forget for a second the nonsensical nature of the plot and Tyrion being an absolute dumbass this season.
Perhaps not.
Beyond the Wall was, in my opinion, the worst episode in the whole series, and has been the culmination of all of D&D's missteps throughout the show. It shows you how important good writing in any form of medium is. No matter how cool it is to see amazing CGI dragons roasting ice zombies, it really doesn't matter if I don't give a shit why they're there in the first place.
You want to suck my dick, is that it? Dick? Cock.
Ah, dick. I like it.
Bet you do.
Now regardless of your thoughts on Eastwatch, the end of the episode was awesome, and I love seeing this ragtag Suicide Squad come together. One thing I've always loved about the show is seeing characters come together who you never thought would ever see each other at the beginning of the show. But moving on to Beyond the Wall, one of the big complaints was the way time seemed to work in the episode. Gendry running all the way back to Eastwatch, sending a raven to Dragonstone, then Daenerys flying all the way up to where the squad is, and they all didn't freeze to death in that time? Well, I mean, Thoros did, but that's beside the point. Side note, I never thought I would have to say this, but I think there are far too many dick jokes in the show at this point.
Ah, dick. I like it.
Benjen needed to be introduced way earlier in this episode as well, rather than waste his character away like how they did. I think the scenes between him and Jon would be particularly interesting. He could maybe save them from some wights early on, similar to how he saved Bran. I think the Undead Bear was a cool concept, but it really offered nothing to the story, and shows the other men who came with them across the wall were there simply to die. So, with that, we aren't going to bring any no-name characters with them, and we're just going to kill off a few more of our main squad. So Thoros is fine, a little anticlimactic, but I suppose it fits. fucking love Tormund, but like Bronn, he doesn't actually add much to the show anymore other than comedy, and I think his death will be a real stinger. To add to that, if you don't hate me enough already, the other character I wish to kill off is Jorah. I don't know what Jorah's ultimate fate will be in the books, but I feel like it just makes sense for him to be killed defending Daenerys, and even more so for him to take it as Daenerys' own partial fuck-up. It will be an interesting, emotional send-off for him, and a turning point for Dany. Like, he's probably going to die in Season 8 in a similar way anyway, so we may as well put this in Season 7. A lot of the time travel issues could have been solved by having Daenerys at Eastwatch too, and not Dragonstone. In regards to the dragon death, just shoot it so it seems like Viserion is the easier one to hit. Maybe Viserion is the one who lands to go pick up all the squad, and after the Night King kills him, Daenerys has to come down with Drogon and save them. You don't need him to fall in the water either, because the chain thing is just fucking stupid. Or if you really want him to, simply have the Night King place his hand on the surface of the water afterwards and we could see some kind of pulse or something go across it, and then a few moments later an undead dragon could burst from the water. But now, we're going to move on to my favourite character in Game of Thrones, Dr. Manhattan.
It means I can see everything. Everything that's ever happened to everyone. Everything that's happening right now. It's all pieces now. Fragments. I need to learn to see better.
I get why everyone was put off with Bran's nonchalant behaviour about everything, but I think we could turn it into something that may work for us. His personal arc should be about him properly controlling his power and learning to go back to how he was before. He can realise after losing Mira and being told off by his sisters that he's losing himself, and while the northern threat is approaching, they will all be dead if he doesn't find himself inside. His sisters in their fight to be Baelish and control the north has him snap out of his blank state and just care a bit more again. While Bran can be returning to the land of the living, he needs to actually do something. Helping his sisters will be a good way for him to complete the arc. However, in regards to him being the three-eyed goddamn raven, we don't actually learn anything new. Sure, we get confirmation that Jon is a Targaryen, and that's kind of it, other than just seeing some whites walking towards the wall. Early in the season, Bran could be trying to learn more about why the White Walkers are doing what they're doing. We could have hints at whatever we end up learning this season. When he eventually comes back to his senses, we could also have him help Jon and his company out across the wall. Shove the White Bear in after all by having Bran walk into a bear to help them, or even have him guide their way using ravens, with Benjen being used to help explain to the squad what happened with Bran. Most of these things really aren't that big changes, but at his current state, Bran had no arc and done absolutely jack shit this season. I think it could be an interesting idea for Bran to be able to show visions to people as well, but that's more of a side note from me. Now, there's plenty of stuff on YouTube talking about how the entire northern plot was absolutely useless and the characters were a bloody mess. It's really dumb, but there are some ideas I have about how to go about this plot.
Littlefinger is one of the most dangerous men in Westeros.
Sansa, I beg you.
As much as I'd like Littlefinger and Varys to see each other one last time, I'm fine with Baelish dying this season. His character is one of the many that has been ruined lately, and someone like him would have definitely done more other than creepily staring down hallways, especially after what Bran told him.
I can only imagine.
Chaos is a ladder.
There's a theory I like that suggests that the Baelish that died was in fact a faceless man. However, I don't think D&D deserve enough credit to have thought that far ahead, and with 5 episodes left, it's pointless to bring it back. Really, Baelish would have left as soon as he found out that Bran was some crazy psychic who could see the past and the present. However, I want to move away from Peter and talk about Sansa for a second. I've always liked Sansa as a character, but the writers are foolish to believe that we think she is as smart as she is by the last episode. Season 5 should have been about him building her up, rather than him breaking her back down again, with hints on how she's going to take him down. We could have spent more time developing the relationship between Baelish and Sansa. This arc should have involved the Vale more, and perhaps even ended up there as Baelish tries to save himself. I really don't have too much more to say about this part of the season. It really rings my brain trying to think of how to fix it. But before I end, I want to make some quick adjustments to the the Jon Dany romance.
I'm a bit confused.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
To be completely honest, I was quite happy with how they handled the John-Danny relationship in Season 7 overall, but I think that an extra 3 episodes would have made it that bit more believable. More conversations between the two of them were much needed. I do think they should have stayed away from the romance aspects, but ultimately I'm fine with it. The one change I do want to make though revolves around Jon's ultimate decision to bend the knee to Daenerys. It was dumb, but I think tweaking the circumstances could have made it far better.
He's right to be afraid.
By making Dany force Jon to bend the knee to get her help, Jon's decision to own up to Cersei at the Dragon Pit meeting is partly both their faults.
Everything we suffered would have been for nothing.
This kinda just makes Jon look like less of a dumbass, but it also shows that Daenerys actually cares about Viserion dying, and she's not going to risk it all without certainty that Jon is going to let her become queen. This show really isn't what it used to be. I'm still going to be engaged through to the end because at this point I've put so much time into watching the earlier seasons, it's going to be a waste if I don't make it through to the end, but a lot of the characters are just shells of what they used to be. You've got Tyrion now, who for the last season has done absolutely nothing, and the stuff he has done has been fucking pointless. So I don't know if they'll be able to salvage characters like him by the end. We have people like Varys who are doing nothing and are just standing around taking ballsack jokes from Tyrion too. And then you've got people like my boy Stannis who just... The one true king will always be in my heart. This video is far overdue, but the trailer for the new season reinvigorated my interest in making it. If you made it this far, thank you, and feel free to rebuke my ideas and comment on your own changes. I love Game of Thrones to death, which is why I'm so critical of it. We just want it to be as good as it could be, but I guess in the end we'll just have to wait for the books to be completed for us to get a more satisfying conclusion. If George R. R. Martin even manages to finish the series.
Hundreds will die.
Thousands.
So I really don't know what I'm doing with this channel. At this stage it's kind of just a dumping ground for stuff I've made and random ideas I throw around. I've wanted to make a video like this for a while, and I watch a fuck ton of video essays, so I thought Game of Thrones was a good place to start. I'd like to do more kinds of these videos and have a couple of story changes I'm writing about at the moment actually, but we'll see. A part of me is kind of doing this just so I can get used to my own voice, but everything here is a work in progress at the moment, so there will probably be some drastic changes as time goes on. As a uni student, I really don't have time for this right now either, but I'm still going to procrastinate and work on this stuff anyway because I love movies and TV shows and games, and I just love talking about them, so it's something I really want to look into doing more in the future. We'll see what happens. Cheers.
I can control electricity to some extent.
Fuck, phone died.
I'm not sure how much at the moment. I usually just charge phones and change the channel.
That sounds like you're becoming handy.
It's more of a curse, to be honest.
Touch my phone, dick.